Ben Tennyson knows how to put the hero in hero time. So how did he go from this to being the villain?
Where is he?
Well, dust off your Omnitrix because we're about to find out as we dive right into the third show in the Ben 10 saga, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. Before we begin, I highly recommend you check out our recaps of the previous two Ben 10 shows, as you will need to know certain events and characters from those shows in order to understand what's going on. But if you're like me and have a busy schedule, let me at least go over a few basics. When Ben Tennyson was 10 years old, he stumbled upon an alien device called the Omnitrix. That allowed him to transform his DNA into any alien cataloged inside it. With it, he battled one alien foe after another, gaining allies and saving the planet more times than one, and grew from an immature, childish 10-year-old to a heroic, strong leader, learning the responsibility of wielding such great power. At the end of the second Ben 10 show, Ben 10 Alien Force, Ben was given a new Omnitrix, the Ultimatrix. A device similar to the Omnitrix, but now having the potential to evolve each alien to its ultimate form, which he gets the chance to explore in this show. By his side is his quick-witted, more mature cousin Gwen, who learned in the first show that she was part Anodite and capable of wielding magic and manipulating mana, more life energy, which comes in handy when battling other magic wielders from other dimensions. The final member of the trio is Kevin Levin. Once a sworn enemy of Ben's, this human Osmosian hybrid has the ability to absorb any material by touching it, and is now Gwen's love interest, proving that anyone can change if given the chance. There are many more characters from previous shows that show up, like Grandpa Max and Azimuth, but we'll get to them as we go along. So grab a Mr. Smoothie and let's take a long overdue dive into Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. The series begins with the episode Fame, where Ben's secret identity is finally being exposed to the world through a leaked online video, painting Ben as not a hero, but someone mounting a one-man, or in this case a one-boy, invasion of Earth. Ben is upset that the world sees him as a threat and a menace after everything he's done for the entire universe, and finds comfort in his girlfriend Julie. Kevin reveals he did some digging while Ben was moping and discovered who it was that leaked the video. The internet conspiracy theorist turns out to be J. Jonah Jimmy Jones, a 10-year-old boy who is Ben's greatest fan.
That's your mastermind?
Jimmy reveals how he figured out Ben was all the different aliens, and that he only exposed Ben because he wanted the world to know how cool Ben was, never intending to portray him as a public menace. It's also revealed that Jimmy uncovered footage of another alien somewhere in Florida that Ben and the gang don't recognize, so they decide to go investigate. It's here that Kevin reveals their new Rust Bucket, which used to be a plumber ship, only more advanced due to Kevin's retrofits.
Sweet. This is going to be the coolest thing I ever crashed.
They blast off to Florida and enter restricted airspace near where the alien was sighted, and almost immediately attacked by the Air Force present there. Kevin is forced to fight back, and Ben rescues one of the ejected pilots whose parachute catches fire, transforming him into Jet Tray. Regardless, he is still taken into custody, only let out by Colonel Rosum when Gwen and Kevin showed him who Ben was, with Rosum realizing Ben is the only one who can help them. Turns out that the unknown alien has been stealing parts from a NASA interstellar rocket. As to why the alien is stealing parts, they don't know, but now that Ben is here, they have a chance to finally stop it. As if on cue, the alien attacks the base again, and Gwen and Kevin fight it while Ben has trouble with his Ultimatrix, a recurring inconvenience for Ben. He finally gets it to work and transforms into Chroma Stone, but the alien easily defeats him. It runs off with the rocket's engine, which is actually a nuclear bomb due to the nature of the rocket. They find where the alien ran off with it and discover that it's been trying to repair his ship so he can go home. However, launching his ship would detonate the bomb, killing millions of people in Florida, so Ben transforms into Spider Monkey and fights the alien. The alien still proves to be more superior than whatever Ben can transform into, so Ben finally uses the full power of his Ultimatrix and transforms into the ultimate Spider Monkey, which honestly looks more like a spider ape. He defeats the alien, and Kevin disarms the bomb with 10 seconds to spare. Now covered in webbing, the alien introduces himself as Bivalvin, an Orishan claiming to have been kidnapped from the Andromeda Galaxy along with 4 others by a monster named Aggregor. They all escaped but crash-landed here on Earth, getting separated in the process. Ben and Gwen reassure him that they will help him get back home using the plumbers as help.
4 aliens that aren't in the Ultimatrix? That's pretty cool.
Unfortunately, while waiting for the plumbers to help him, Bivalvin is recaptured by Aggregor. Hit 'em Where They Live is a skippable episode, so we won't dwell here too long. Basically, with Ben's new fame, his identity has been revealed to many of his past villains, like Charmcaster, Vilgax, and Zombozo the Clown. And they've now targeted his family. Ben and the gang fight them when they kidnapped Ben's mom, Sandra, and we see Ben transform into the ultimate Big Chill, capable of breathing fire so cold that it burns. We also see Gwen transform into her innermost Anodite self, something she vowed to never do again, in order to save Sandra from Zombozo. In the end, the bad guys are defeated and Sandra is saved. In Escape from Aggregor, another alien is going on a rampage downtown, causing Ben and the gang to fight it. Gwen notices the alien's attacks don't harm anyone, only buildings and cars, and figures out it is only trying to communicate. They use their new universal translators the plumbers gifted them from when they fought the dragon in the previous show and discovered is one of the 5 escaped prisoners from Aggregor. His name is Galapagos, a Geokelani Arios, and explains how his people are a non-violent race and were attacked by Aggregor, who has the power to absorb the energy of anyone he touches. He captured Galapagos and locked him away with Bivalvin, and the others, Rad and Amperi, Pandor, a Proprietosian bee, and Andreas, Talpaden. They escaped using their abilities and boarded another ship, but they crash-landed on Earth when Aggregor shot them down. To avoid Aggregor capturing them all again, they split up, hoping to find a way back home, which brought Galapagos to Ben. Ben helps Galapagos get off-world, but not before cataloging his DNA into his Ultimatrix. Unfortunately, the plumber responsible for taking Galapagos home turns out to be Aggregor. 2 down, 3 to go. Kevin finds Pandor hiring people to try and crack open his safe so he can be free from his suit, but no one is able to cut through as Pandor's outer shell is made from a metal not found on Earth. Kevin gets the closest when he absorbs his Tatanite, the strongest mineral in the galaxy, but stops when he discovers that whatever Pandor has under his shell is radioactive. Pandor refuses to answer what it is and has the other recruits fight Kevin until he promises to help crack him open. Kevin escapes and is forced to leave behind his Tatanite. Kevin reports back, and Ben and Gwen find Pandor tunneling somewhere along with the other recruits. During the fight, Ben transforms into Ultimate Humongosaur, stronger than regular Humongosaur but now capable of shooting missiles. Unfortunately, Ben didn't account for their location and accidentally causes a cave-in, allowing Pandor to escape. During the fight, Gwen tried to use her brain and not her fists like Ben and Kevin did, and tried to peacefully appeal to Pandor to let them help him. Kevin scolds her for not thinking rationally and storms off, allowing Pandor and his new goons to capture him. Pandor then tricks Kevin into opening his suit and is finally released. He immediately begins feeding on the energy around him, causing havoc. Gwen and Ben arrive and Gwen tries to resolve the situation peacefully, but Pandor attacks Gwen, injuring her. He then flies to absorb some nuclear energy, and Ben transforms into Bivalvin, trying to convince Pandor that what he is doing will destroy their planet. Pandor doesn't care as he is very hungry, prompting another fight between them. Eventually, they manage to defeat Pandor and get him back into his suit, when Ben transforms into Ultimate Cannonball and the plumbers take Pandor back to his home. But as you might have expected, it doesn't take Aggregor long to recapture him. Man, these plumbers are bad at their jobs. They're 0-3. In Andreas' fault, the Forever Knights interrupt Ben's signing event to steal another mystical alien device, a generic smoothie machine? I mean, I wouldn't mind having my own smoothie machine if I was a criminal organization. Unable to understand this new strange behavior from the Forever Knights, they enlist the help of Jimmy and see if he knows anything.
Jimmy! Your friends are here!
Who wants cookies?
Jimmy shows them surveillance footage of the Forever Knights stealing food from other restaurants, but never taking any money or anything valuable, let alone anything alien-related. Jimmy tracks down one of the Forever Knights' castles, but when they get there, they find it in ruins. They find another castle and break inside, discovering that Argit, another old enemy of Ben's, has somehow conned his way to becoming the leader of the Forever Knights. He reveals that he was able to accomplish this when he befriended a scared Andreas, who was able to tunnel his way through anything, sometimes causing massive tremors that level the Forever Knights' castles. Just then, the legendary Sir Dagonet enters and reclaims authority over the Forever Knights, pretty easily I might add. He takes them into custody, but not before Argit tried to betray everyone, including his new friend Andreas. They easily escape out of their cell because I guess the Forever Knights didn't think to put them somewhere that prevents them from using their powers, and fight back against Dagonet in order to rescue Andreas from being executed by an energy cannon. They free Andreas, but then Dagonet turns the cannon into a bomb, giving him and his knights a chance to escape. Andreas sacrifices himself by absorbing the cannon's energy, allowing Ben and the others to escape. Once safe, Kevin scolds Argit for betraying and using his best friend for his personal gain, and everyone mourns Andreas' death. However, it turns out Andreas survived, and Aggregor recaptures his broken body. Infused, Ben is finally able to get some sleep after pulling 4 all-nighters looking for aliens, when Rad attacks him in his room. Rad, whose powers involve using electrical energy, is defeated when Ben throws him into a pool of water.
What is that?
Ben and the others capture him and take him to the abandoned military base in Los Soledad, where Rad explains he attacked Ben because he believes Ben aided Aggregor in recapturing the others. Ben tries to assure him they are on the same side, but Rad reveals Aggregor was able to recapture them because he used Ben's Ultimatrix as a homing device and wishes to destroy it before he is captured. He attacks the watch, but then a beam shoots out of it, causing an explosion, and Rad disappears. Aggregor then arrives, demanding to know where Rad is. They lie to him and he attacks them, but whatever Rad did to Ben's Ultimatrix is preventing him from transforming. After enough button mashing, Ben is able to transform, but is only able to transform into Rad's alien species. Regardless, Aggregor proves to be too much, and Gwen has to teleport everyone to safety. Once safe, Rad reveals that he fused himself with the Ultimatrix in order to prevent Aggregor from tracking them, and his mind is currently fused with Ben's. Kevin decides to reboot the Ultimatrix despite the risk of Aggregor finding them again, prompting Rad to fight back and take total control of Ben. Kevin frees Ben from Rad, but Rad runs away as Aggregor drops from the ceiling.
Again with the roof. You never heard of using a door?
Aggregor attacks them, but thankfully Ben's Ultimatrix is working again and is able to transform into anything he wants. Unfortunately, Aggregor absorbs every attack from each alien, making him more powerful than before. Rad reappears, finding Kevin trapped outside, and Kevin convinces him to help Ben, adding that he used to be just like him. Rad sacrifices himself to save Ben, allowing himself to be recaptured. With Aggregor now having back in his possession all 5 aliens, Kevin thinks this is game over for them. But Kevin assures them it is not, because just like Aggregor, he has all 5 aliens too, cataloged in his Ultimatrix, and he's going to use that to stop Aggregor. Moving on to the 10th episode, Ultimate Aggregor, which premiered on October 10th, 2010, keeping the Ben 10 theme going. The episode begins with Aggregor preparing to transport Rad back to his ship when he is attacked by a squadron of plumbers. Aggregor defeats them and manages to secure Rad and himself in his ship, but as he prepares to go home, one of the plumbers destroys the ship's hyperdrive, forcing Aggregor to land far away. Grandpa Max informs Ben and the team of what just happened, and Kevin investigates the battle, figuring out where Aggregor might have gone. They are eventually ambushed by Aggregor's forces, and they fight them back. Ben goes on ahead and boards Aggregor's ship, but Max realizes it was a trap too late as it explodes with Ben inside. Luckily, Ben was Lodestar when it exploded, so he was able to survive.
Where is Aggregor?
Unable to locate Aggregor, they are accompanied by Colonel Razum, who informs them that Aggregor is now in Los Soledad, trying to facilitate the absorption using equipment Professor Paradox had constructed, another of Ben's past allies. Professor Paradox warns them of the dangers of Aggregor using the machine, then pulls Kevin aside, giving him future advice, telling him to remember who his friends are. This will be important later on, so don't forget it.
Your friends are strange.
Razum has been instructed to hold his troops back, allowing Ben and his team to go all out as they take down Aggregor. Ben then transforms into Swampfire's ultimate form and they attack the base, making their way inside. Kevin tries to reason with Aggregor, one Osmosian to another, and reminds him that much absorption causes insanity, bringing up what happened to him as a kid. But Aggregor doesn't care. Aggregor absorbs the aliens and transforms into a monstrous amalgamation of all 5 forms and their powers. Map of Infinity begins right where the previous episode ended, as Ben attacks Aggregor using Humongosaur, throwing the entire base at Aggregor's head. Unfortunately, Aggregor is too powerful for them, blasting Ben and the others around like ragdolls. Aggregor then knocks Ben out and he awakens to find Azimuth peering over him. Azimuth takes them to Galvin Prime, rebuilt from the war against the hybrids, where he informs them that Aggregor plans on acquiring the Map of Infinity, a complete map of space-time that will lead him to a mysterious realm known as the Forge of Creation. Realizing how dangerous the map could be if placed in the wrong hands, Professor Paradox divided it into 4 parts and hid them throughout the galaxy. Aggregor captured those 5 certain aliens for this very reason, so he can find all 4 parts and use the Map of Infinity to acquire unlimited power. Ben and the gang travel to the first location, a tidally locked planet called Makildi. They suit up and prepare to land, where the hot and cold temperatures meet on the planet.
This is a plumber's suit, right? I was just making sure my butt crack wasn't showing.
They find a temple inhabited by the same aliens as Big Chill, Necrophrygians. Inside the temple, they encounter one booby trap after another as Gwen leads them to the piece, before eventually coming across a two-headed beast capable of shooting both fire and ice from its mouths. They defeat it and find where the artifact is located. Unfortunately, they are forced into a predicament that allows Aggregor to waltz right in and take the artifact for himself.
I do appreciate you holding the door for me, Levin.
Enraged, Ben uses all the strength of 4 arms and lifts the door open himself, allowing Kevin to rescue a now drugged Gwen. They make it back to the ship just as Ben's Ultimatrix overheats, and Ben vows to not let Aggregor get another piece. The episode Deep begins with Ben getting a communication from plumber Magister Pike, informing him that Aggregor has been sighted on the aquatic planet Pisces. They arrive at the planet and Kevin flies, or in this case dives, the rust bucket below the planet's aquatic surface. They rendezvous with Pike and discover that Aggregor is not in the ocean, but in the heavily guarded planet core. They reach the core and find it still guarded, but signs that show Aggregor got past them somehow. Pike leads them through the core, but a tremor causes a cave-in, trapping Pike. Ben and Kevin go on ahead and discover that Aggregor has already found the second piece disguised as a gravitational device, responsible for keeping the watery planet intact. They try to stop him, but Aggregor easily defeats them, escaping with the second piece and somehow closing the hole behind him. Ben transforms into Big Chill and goes after Aggregor, and Pike enters, not seeing Aggregor, and assumes Kevin and the others are trying to destroy their planet. Ben chases after Aggregor, but Pike's forces try to stop Ben, thinking he was the one who stole the gravitational device. Sadly, Aggregor gets away, and Ben saves the planet by using the gravitational device used to hold Goop together. He rematerializes, and Pike's men repair their ship as a gesture of thanks. Where the magic happens begins with the gang chasing after Aggregor as he enters the mystic doorway called the Door to Anywhere. It unfortunately closes behind him, but luckily Ben remembers the runes that appeared on the doorway when Aggregor uttered his destination. Gwen tries to read it, but she self-taught herself her magical powers, so she's forced to call upon the one person that can help her, Charmcaster. Uh-oh. They fight for a bit before Gwen convinces her to help them, especially since the dimension Aggregor went to was made completely of mana, the power source for their magic. Charmcaster explains that this dimension is Ledger Domain, the realm of magic where Charmcaster herself was born, and opens the door. Inside, Gwen notices that inside the dimension her magic is more powerful. Charmcaster reveals the reason is because the dimension holds the Alpha Rune, and they realize this is the third piece Aggregor is after. Turns out the dark magician who rules over the Ledger Domain, Adwatia, holds the Alpha Rune around his neck and thinks they are the ones here to steal the Alpha Rune from him, not Aggregor. As they evade Adwatia's minions, Charmcaster reveals to Gwen that her father Spellbinder was killed in the process of helping Hex, and Charmcaster escaped from Adwatia and the Ledger Domain. Gwen feels bad for her. They come across a gap in their path where several gentle voices down below disguise themselves as Charmcaster's dad. Almost tricking her into falling in, Gwen saves her life and together helps them get across as a team.
Right.
They reach Adwatia's citadel, and Charmcaster confronts him over the death of her father. He attacks them, but their attacks turn into simply a distraction for Aggregor as he knocks him out, taking the Alpha Rune.
Once again, I could never have done it without you.
Without the Alpha Rune, the Ledger Domain begins to crumble. Charmcaster opens a door for them to escape, but stays behind so she can finish her fight with Adwatia. Gwen realizes that without the Alpha Rune, Charmcaster is stuck in the Ledger Domain, realizing she cared more about freeing her people than she did stopping Aggregor. Ben promises Gwen they will find a way to return and save her, but right now, they have one more chance to stop Aggregor. Azimuth then contacts Ben, scolding him for failing 3 times to stop Aggregor. He informs them that the last piece is located at a place designed to protect it from all who are unworthy, the Perplexahedron. He then transports them straight to it, located in another galaxy, with Aggregor already there. They try to stop him, but Aggregor is able to convince the Perplexahedron that he is worthy. When he shows it, he has 3 of the 4 parts. A door opens and closes right behind him. But Kevin manages to squeeze the rust bucket through the closing door. They look for Aggregor and find themselves going in dimensional circles, as the whole place is one giant shifting maze. They enter other rooms and accidentally set off booby traps and several, prompting lots of quick thinking and fighting. Ben eventually figures out the maze, realizing that the more dangerous the trap, the closer they are to the last piece. They make their way through and reach the center of the maze, where they find the Sentinel, the keeper of the final piece, who reveals he knows all about them and willingly gives Ben the final piece. The Perplexahedron then begins to crumble, with the Sentinel making Ben promise to keep it safe as they leave with the piece pointing the way back to the ship. However, Ben can't bring himself to leave the Sentinel behind to die, so he goes back with Gwen, where they find Aggregor attacking the Sentinel, demanding to know where the piece is. Despite the Sentinel begging Ben to leave while he still has the piece, Ben fights Aggregor. As expected, Aggregor defeats Ben and takes the final piece before leaving. Kevin rescues everyone as the Perplexahedron crumbles away, and the Sentinel scolds Ben for saving him and not the map piece, as his sole purpose was to keep the map safe. He disappears from existence, uttering the phrase, "All is lost." The Forge of Creation begins with Azimuth scolding Ben and the gang for failing to stop Aggregor 4 times. Unable to locate where the Forge of Creation is, Ben transforms into Alien X, something he swore he would never do again, requiring keys from both Gwen and Kevin to unlock it. Inside Alien X, Ben tries to reason with Bellicus and Serena, but as expected, they are still just as difficult to cooperate with.
Am not.
R2.
Am not.
Thankfully, Professor Paradox reappears and rescues Ben out of Alien X, revealing that he knows where the Forge of Creation is because he's the one who hid it. Paradox explains that the Forge of Creation is the source of the universe's power, and Aggregor plans to absorb one of the newborn celestial sapiens the Forge produces, similar to what Alien X is, so he can acquire complete omnipotence. Paradox takes them beyond the edge of the universe, where a celestial nebula separates the other universes, and we see a celestial baby is about to be born. Paradox leaves them, giving them timey-wimey reasons for why everything is, and they are immediately attacked by Aggregor's forces inside the nebula. Their ship gets stuck during the fight, and Ben accidentally touches the barrier, bringing back a 10-year-old version of himself.
Did I really used to be that obnoxious?
Used to be?
10-year-old Ben agrees to help them despite not completely understanding what's going on or why he's here. They find the newborn Celestial and end up crash landing on the Celestial Mother's hands as their ship was still damaged from the earlier fight. Aggregor finds and attacks them, with both Bens working together to take him down. Unfortunately, Aggregor is still too powerful, so Kevin is forced to absorb all the power of the Ultimatrix, like how he did with Ben's Omnitrix long ago, transforming him into a combination of all the aliens Ben can turn into. He absorbs Aggregor's powers, defeating him, but all that power makes Kevin lose control and he flies away. Paradox then appears, erasing 10-year-old Ben's memory of the experience before sending him back, and assures Ben that the story is not over yet. In Nor Iron Bars a Cage, it's revealed that Kevin, still possessing all the powers of the Ultimatrix, has voluntarily incarcerated himself in Arcarceron, a prison in the Null Void dimension, in the hopes of murdering the prison warden Morgue. In a flashback, we see that when he was first trapped in the Null Void, he found himself in this same prison, where another prisoner, Quarrel, helped him break free from when he possessed all the powers of the Omnitrix, as well as teach him how to absorb materials around him. Quarrel orchestrated an escape attempt, but he was killed by Morgue when he sacrificed himself to allow Kevin to escape. Ben and Gwen figure out where Kevin had gone and try to warn Morgue, but Morgue isn't convinced the threat is real. They then accidentally stumble upon what Morgue is forcing the other prisoners to mine, and it turns out to be a hallucinogenic drug as he's now become a drug trafficker. Kevin finds Morgue, but Morgue shocks him and the other prisoners using the collars around their necks. Ben sees this and transforms into Echo Echo and uses his sonic ability to destroy the collars, freeing all the prisoners.
Prisoners, you are instructed to return to your work immediately.
Ben and Gwen find Kevin, and Ben transforms into Armadillo in order to stop Kevin from killing Morgue. They get separated in the fight, and Kevin once again comes face to face with Morgue. He throws him in the elevator and drops it, but Gwen is there to catch him. Morgue is taken into custody, but Kevin has escaped. Ben wonders if Kevin has gone too far, hinting they now have to kill him, but Gwen refuses to give up just yet. Absolute Power begins with Kevin continuing his revenge quest by taking Alan's Pyronite powers as his lust for power is growing stronger. Ben comes to his rescue as Kevin leaves, and Alan informs Ben that he was the first Plumbers' helper he attacked. Ben tries again to convince Gwen that the only way to stop Kevin is to kill him, especially after all he's done to everyone, but Gwen is still convinced there's another way. Their arguing turns into fighting, with Gwen showing off how much stronger she's gotten with her magic. It's only when Ben turns into way big that he defeats her and tells her sentimentality will get everyone else killed. Ben then mercilessly attacks other villains, demanding to know the whereabouts of Kevin. Gwen has no other choice but to seek out the help of Michael Morningstar and proves how much she needs his help by restoring his body to what it was before everything. Max then contacts Ben, telling him killing Kevin is the right thing to do. However, he reminds Ben that it's not what he would do to solve a problem, as Ben always finds a way to see the good in people. Gwen finds Ben attacking Volcanus and stops him, revealing her new partnership with Michael. Michael reveals that when Kevin overloaded the Dominus Librium back in the previous show, Michael managed to save a piece of it and they can use it to drain all of Kevin's powers. Gwen then finds Kevin in the arcade where they first met and tries to reason with him. Kevin struggles to fight back against his madness, but ends up fighting Gwen, resulting in him absorbing her magic. Part 2 begins with Gwen breaking free and retreating back to Ben and Michael. Gwen is heartbroken talking to Kevin didn't work, but Michael assures her that Kevin will come for them now after he got a taste for Gwen's power. Michael then takes them to Cooper, who looks a lot more muscular and taller than when we last saw him. Cooper assures Gwen that he will find a way to use the Dominus Librium to stop Kevin.
It's obvious why Cooper's helping. You, not so much.
Everyone takes turns delaying Kevin long enough for Cooper to finish building the machine that will drain Kevin, until finally, Ben is able to knock Kevin out using Ultimate Echo Echo. He's about to finish him when Gwen stops him. Ben reminds her what Paradox told him about protecting the innocent, and Gwen points out that that includes Kevin. Ben backs down, telling Gwen she'd better be right. They hook Kevin up to the machine, and successfully drain all his power, inadvertently giving Michael all the power absorbed into the Dominus Librium. But then, Ben reveals they anticipated Michael betraying them like this, so they installed a failsafe, taking all of Michael's powers away. All 5 aliens absorbed into Aggregor and Kevin are brought back to life, and Kevin shows his gratitude to Michael by punching him in the face. Everyone reconciles, and Gwen and Kevin kiss. Ben and Kevin are doing their routine measuring contest when a mysterious space pod crashes right on top of them. Gwen touches the pod and opens it and finds a beautiful, naked woman inside. They clothe her and question her, but she doesn't remember anything, only remembering that her name is Eunice. What is odd about her is that animals really seem to like her, as she is able to absorb the abilities of them. Ben begins to fall for her, and who can blame him? And Gwen has to remind him that he already has Julie for a girlfriend.
Have you ever seen anything more beautiful?
Suddenly, they're attacked by Sunder, and he is here for Eunice. Ben, Gwen, and Kevin fight back against him, and Sunder reveals that Eunice isn't a person, but an Omnitrix-like device known as the Unitrix. The fighting continues as they try to get Eunice back, and Azimuth has to come and explain everything. Turns out, Sunder is working for him, and Eunice was made to house alien DNA samples, hence why she turned into a woman when Gwen inadvertently touched the pod. Azimuth sees her as nothing more than a machine, but Ben argues for her freedom, pointing out that she's just as alive as the aliens in his Ultimatrix. Azimuth lets her remain as she is, and takes her back to give her a purpose, but before she leaves, she gives Ben a parting gift, something beautiful. In Revenge of the Swarm, we see the return of Victor Validus, one of Ben's villains first introduced in Ben 10 Alien Swarm. Victor had figured out how to control microchips like a queen bee controlling a hive, and it seems he is finally getting revenge on Ben. He attacks Ben in the middle of the night, and Ben manages to fight him off and acquire one of Victor's microchips. He shows it to Gwen and Kevin, and they raid Victor's laboratories, only to discover that Victor has been dead for some time. They then meet with Victor's daughter Elena, whom Ben definitely doesn't have a thing for, hoping she will have some answers as to where the nanochips came from. But even she doesn't recognize them, despite also studying the nanochips her father did in her lab. Ben then sets up a date with Julie, but when she arrives, she is abducted by the nanochips. Ben confronts Elena and forces her to confess that the nanochips they've encountered are indeed hers, and Elena confesses to be the true queen of the nanochips, having constructed a fake version of her father, and abducted Julie out of jealousy. Ben rescues Julie and fights Elena, but the nanochips have taken over Elena's mind, so there's no longer Elena, but we. Julie helps Elena come back, and Elena has no choice but destroy herself in order to save everyone. Ben mourns Elena's death, but as they leave, the nanochips come back to life. The Creature from Beyond begins with another faction of the Forever Knights, led by Winston, excavating a magical sealed vault with their insignia on it, thinking alien technology is kept inside, when a mysterious demon creature called Lucubra breaks free and kidnaps some of them before fleeing. Tracking a disturbance in the mana field, Gwen leads Ben and Kevin to the same vault, and they team up with Winston and another Forever Knights faction led by Sir Cyrus. They discover that whoever sealed the vault used magic, something a Forever Knight wouldn't do. Together, they find Lucubra in a dark alleyway feeding on a policeman. Gwen accidentally gets too close and it starts feeding on her, assimilating her under its control. Kevin breaks her free, and the creature tries the same thing on her, but for some reason, Osmosians are immune to its control. Lucubra runs off with Winston, and Cyrus blames Ben for letting it get away. Gwen reads Winston's notes and realizes the seal wasn't guarding a vault, but was in fact a doorway to another dimension. Gwen uses her magic to locate Lucubra, and they fight it as it continues to feed, but it still has a hold over Gwen despite not being attached to her. Kevin then reconstructs a makeshift tin hat for her to block out Lucubra feeding on her thoughts. Ben then uses NRG to dig a deep vault for Lacubra, and Gwen seals it like before. As the Forever Knights leave, Winston reveals that he is still under Lacubra's influence. Meanwhile, a mysterious old man at a retirement home senses the seal has been broken, and is saddened when he discovers his greatest fear is now a reality. Ben 10,000 Returns begins with a different version of Ben 10,000 using clockwork to defeat Eon, an interdimensional time traveler first introduced in Ben 10 Race Against Time, and Professor Paradox's arch-enemy. This Ben 10,000 has evolved into Ultimate Ben, giving him the powers of each alien without changing into them. Paradox informs Ben that he hasn't defeated Eon, only set him back in time. Paradox and Ben 10,000 travel to the dimension our Ben, Gwen, and Kevin are located after Gwen opened a doorway using a mysterious artifact the Ultimatrix led them to. Ben 10,000 and Paradox inform them that after being defeated, Eon began traveling between worlds, killing every version of Ben Tennyson he could find. They decide the only way to stop him is to destroy the Hand of Armageddon before Eon can enter their world. However, as the two Bens begin to destroy the device, Paradox realizes that Eon is instead using their powers to open a cross-time breach. Eon emerges, prompting another fight between Eon and his army of ninjas, during which Eon permanently destroys Waybig and Swampfire, aging each form into dust. Gwen and Kevin get a closer look at the ninjas and see that they are all Bens from different dimensions, and Eon is revealed to be another alternate Ben Tennyson, who has been absorbing other Bens and making them his slaves. He intends to gain enough power to replace the timeline with one where only he exists. Luckily, Ben is able to destroy the Hand of Armageddon, destroying Eon. Ben 10,000 then returns to his timeline, but not before giving Ben back Waybig and Swampfire, as well as a few others he's never had until now. Paradox then ominously warns Ben about Old George and the creature from beyond. What could that mean? In the episode Moonstruck, we get to see a bit of Max's backstory and how he met Gwen's grandmother. Ben and the gang are helping Max clean out the old rust bucket, when Gwen stumbles upon a unique bracelet that more or less belonged to her grandmother, Verdona. Max is then persuaded to tell the story of how they met. Back in the early 60s, Max was flying advanced jets for the Air Force when he spotted a UFO. He shot it down, but not before destroying his own jet. The incidents caused him to get kicked out of the Air Force since no one believed his UFO story. But he was then recruited by a general working for NASA who believed his story. On the way to NASA, Max stopped at a diner where he was approached by a beautiful woman wearing the same bracelet. She introduces herself as Verdona, and the two hit it off right away. She then gets afraid and tells them they need to leave when an advanced robot known as a synthroid appears to take her back. Max manages to fight it off and they escape in his car. Verdona explains that she's an Anodite and was the synthroid's prisoner in the ship Max shot down as the bracelet prevents her from using her powers. She escaped and used her telepathy powers to locate him, as their minds are now connected. Max tries to remove the bracelet, but the synthroid catches up to them and takes Verdona. Max uses their connected minds to locate where its ship is and tries to rescue Verdona. Luckily, a plumber shows up and Max takes his gun when he is knocked out. Inside the ship, Verdona helps Max figure out how to defeat the synthroid by blowing up the power sphere. They escape the blast along with the plumber and the bracelet is removed. Verdona is finally free, and Max is not afraid by her true form. She invites him to come with her and explore beyond where NASA will take him. But Max decides to stay as he wants to earn his place in the stars. She kisses him farewell, promising to see each other again. Max then explains that he never did become an astronaut, but the same plumber that helped them came back and recruited Max to be a plumber, and the rest is history.
And Grandma came back too, right? I mean, you had to meet her again.
Well, that's a story for another time.
The Season 2 finale begins with the same mysterious old man from the creature from beyond breaking into Area 51, causing the entire facility to mysteriously vanish. Ben and the gang, along with Cooper, arrive at the massive crater left behind, where Rosam informs them that below the facility were several holding cells that housed 775 potentially dangerous aliens for over 50 years. Ben transforms into Big Chill and examines the inhumane conditions each prisoner is kept in. All the while, no one notices one of the prisoners trying to escape in a plumber ship. Ben tries to stop it using Wrath and manages to make it crash.
Let me tell you something, stupid Wrath-sized hole! Wrath will destroy you!
They reach the crashed ship, but the failsafe auto-destruct sequence blows the ship up. Luckily, the prisoner left behind a trail of destruction, so they follow it.
Old truck.
They find the prisoner and fight it, where they learn that he was captured unjustly by the Air Force, and his entire family was killed while he was imprisoned. He vows vengeance on all those that wronged him, starting with Rosam, and escapes. Ben and the gang fly to Patrick Air Force Base to warn Rosam, unknowingly bringing prisoner 775 right to him. Ben uses Wild Mutt to track him, but Razum arrives home before they can stop him. Ben then transforms into Ultimate Wild Mutt and defeats prisoner 775, but refuses to kill him even when he begs for death, whimpering like a scared child.
Some threat, huh?
The plumbers take prisoner 775 back to his planet, and Ben adds his DNA to his Ultimatrix. Max scolds Razum for what he did, but Razum justifies his actions, saying he'd do it again in order to protect his country. So by now you're probably wondering who this mysterious old man is. Turns out his name is George, whom Paradox warned Ben about, and is the first knight and founder of the Forever Knights. He unites the several factions of Forever Knights, and Driscoll serves as George's right-hand man. George orders a purge of all aliens on Earth, and the Forever Knights kill or drive off more than 500 aliens, including Pierce Wheels. Ben and the gang investigate the hundreds of disappearances by visiting Mr. Bauman, a local shopkeeper who sells alien provisions. They discover he's been hiding aliens trying to avoid the Forever Knights, and Ben and the others offer their help smuggling them off the planet. The supply ship arrives and the Forever Knights attack, led by Driscoll. They fight them off, but Ben then challenges Driscoll to single combat, making Driscoll promise to let them go if he wins. Luckily, Ben forces Driscoll to yield, and his forces allow the aliens to live. Driscoll returns to George, expecting an honorable punishment, but George instead puts Driscoll in charge as he is leaving on a quest. But before he leaves, George tells Driscoll to be ready for the battle of 100 lifetimes. The episode The Flamekeeper's Circle begins with Julie inviting Ben and Kevin to visit the headquarters of the Flamekeeper's Circle, a cult she's recently joined that believes mankind was aided in developing their species thousands of years ago. They meet their leader, Conduit Edwards, who informs them that the most famous of these aliens was Dagon, whom they believe will return and has returned to help mankind and those less fortunate. While Julie expresses great enthusiasm for their cause, Ben laughs at their narrow-minded understanding of aliens and advancing a species that hasn't earned the right just yet. Suspicious, Ben uses Chameleon to sneak into the facility and discover that Dagon is in fact his greatest foe, Vilgax.
Vilgax, conqueror of 10 worlds, living in a fish tank in the VIP room of a bunch of people who believe that Santa drives a UFO.
Vilgax explains that after their last battle, he was unable to transform back into his original form and washed up on shore, where he was sold as a carnival freak exhibit. He was eventually discovered by the Esoterica, a faction of the Flamekeeper Circle who can teleport into a parallel dimension at will, and brought to their headquarters, where he's been pretending to be their Dagon, as he coincidentally just so happened to look like him. Vilgax reveals the Circle are allowing him to leave off-world, just as Edwards and Julie arrive with Esoterica. Ben tries to explain that Dagon is Vilgax, but only Julie believes him as a fight ensues. Gwen and Kevin arrive to even the fight, but after destroying the stolen ship Vilgax was going to use, and Ben manages to break Vilgax's tank. The water forces them out of the room as it closes behind them, and Ben vows to return and finally defeat Vilgax.
We could all argue about it some more over dinner.
I never did get my dessert.
In The Perfect Girlfriend, Julie has been acting weird lately, even giving up her tennis tournament just so she and Ben can hang out together. It's as if Ben is her one and only priority.
What'd you do, Ben? Hypnotize her?
Gwen has Kevin follow Julie to make sure everything is fine with her. But it's only when Ben and Julie are alone together watching a tennis tournament that Ben discovers that the real Julie is at her tennis tournament. And the Julie that's been waiting on his every need is Elena. She once again confesses her love to Ben, promising to use her nanochips to make Ben happy no matter what. But then Julie comes back home, prompting Ben to protect her from Elena. Elena almost kills Ben, but Julie manages to convince Elena to let him go. Elena disappears, vowing revenge against Ben. A Night to Remember begins with Ben and the gang, accompanied by a squadron of plumbers attacking Edward and the Esoterica transporting Vilgax, still thinking it's Dagon. The fight ends with the Circle escaping Vilgax and the warehouse exploding around them, but not before Kevin was able to capture one of the Esoterica. The captured Esoterica turns out to be Winston, who has no idea what is going on or why he's an Esoterica. They confront Driscoll and the other Forever Knights, where they discover that Dagon is real, and has been using the Lacubra from the same dimension to possess and control anyone at will. Dagon controls Gwen and informs them that Vilgax is after his heart, which George cut out of him centuries ago and will give Vilgax unlimited power. Driscoll then tells the tale of when George first encountered Dagon, which becomes the origins of the myth St. George and the Dragon. George cut out Dagon's heart with his sword, Ascalon, and sealed Dagon away in another dimension. So long as Ascalon remains pierced in Dagon's heart, he will never regain his full power. Gwen figures out where George is gone, and as expected, Driscoll betrays their truce while they rush to George's aid. Driscoll and his knights reach the shrine where Ascalon and the heart are kept, but they're ambushed by Esoterica, allowing Vilgax to touch the sword first, absorbing the power of the heart. His form is restored. With a few upgrades and he attacks both armies. Dagon then possesses Winston and tells Vilgax to break the seal so he can obtain more power. After regaining consciousness, Gwen senses what happened and transports him to the seal, just in time to see Vilgax break the seal. However, Vilgax is absorbed into the other dimension, leaving behind Ascalon. Realizing they are lost, George reassures them that victory is possible as he reunites with his sword, restoring his youth.
Let the dragon come.
Picking right where we left off, Solitary Alignment begins with Azimuth coming out of the shadows to reveal that he was the one who built Ascalon and he demands it back. George refuses to give it back, so Azimuth orders Ben and the others to fight him. But the sword is too powerful, allowing George to easily defeat them and leave for Area 51. Ben is confused by what just happened and forces Azimuth to explain everything. Centuries ago, Azimuth and his lover Zenith lived on Primus, where Azimuth was seeking to understand the fundamental forces of the universe. Azimuth ultimately developed Ascalon to manipulate reality itself, but Zenith left him out of disagreement with his irresponsible behavior.
That I was once young and stupid as you are at this very moment.
Later, an Incursian stole Ascalon wanting to use it for battle, but his actions eventually led to the destruction of his entire planet. Azimuth retrieved Ascalon and swore to dedicate his life to peace, hence why he created the Omnitrix, which was also a desperate attempt to get Zenith to notice that he changed. Azimuth then gave the sword to George in the year 1131 so he could defeat Dagon, but Azimuth fears he won't be able to defeat him a second time because Dagon won't underestimate him this time. Taking a break from this main story, as we see Gwen breaking into Hex's library in the hopes to find a way to free Charmcaster from the Ledger domain. Hex catches her and regretfully informs her that there is no way to save his niece, but Gwen is still determined and figures out a way to combine science and magic and re-enter the Ledger domain. They discover that Charmcaster managed to defeat Adoweicha and has now been drained of all his mana. She kills Adoweicha once and for all, and reveals she plans to drain all the energy from every life force in the dimension as part of a ritualistic sacrifice in order to resurrect her father. Ben transforms into Edel, an alien similar to Upchuck, as they try to stop Charmcaster, but Charmcaster ends up killing all three of them, stealing their mana. She then summons Dagon, asking for the return of her father in exchange for all the souls she collected, and Dagon accepts her bargain. Spellbinder returns and embraces his daughter with loving arms, but he is disgusted and ashamed of his daughter when he discovers what she did to bring him back. He refuses to stay, and Dagon has no choice but to give back all the souls that were taken. Ben and the others come back to life and leave Charmcaster in the Ledger domain, unsure what to do next. Couples Retreat opens with the gang trying to stop Michael from opening a doorway to the Ledger domain. He unfortunately succeeds, and Charmcaster is impressed by Michael's skill with magic, taking him inside the Ledger domain. The two start falling in love with each other, and Michael discovers his powers increase the more he remains in her presence. Eventually, Charmcaster grows to trust Michael more than anything, and shows him how she changed the doorway out of the Ledger domain. She then tells Michael her real name, Hope, romantically giving Michael power over her. Of course, this is Michael we're talking about. His idea of romance is a little different. Michael then exits the Ledger domain and is attacked by Ben and the gang. Michael's powers are too weak outside the Ledger domain, so he retreats back to Charmcaster. Ben and Gwen figure out how he opened the door and follow after him.
Yeah, everybody knows everybody.
Another fight breaks out, and in the heat of the moment, Michael calls Gwen Lovely Gwen. This prompts Charmcaster to get jealous of Gwen and ask Michael what her name is. Michael can't remember and guesses Heather, which enrages her, banishing him and the others out of the Ledger domain. With his powers drained, Ben and the others can now give Michael a long overdue beating. Sadly, Charmcaster remains in the Ledger domain, mourning the loss of what she thought was true love. The beginning of the end begins with Esoterica attacking Ben and the gang in Kevin's garage, who are here to make sure they don't interfere with the coming of Dagon.
We were sent to destroy any who dare interfere with the coming of Dagon.
At that moment, the Forever Knights are waging war against the Esoterica as George charges ahead towards the seal. It is during this fight that many Forever Knights are killed, including Patrick, Urian, and Driscoll. Ben and the others crash the war, trying to side with the Forever Knights, but they still see Ben as a threat. George, along with Winston, make their way closer to the seal, but Edward stops them, wounding Winston. George manages to kill Edwards, and Winston shortly succumbs to his wounds, with George honoring him, saying he died like a knight. George reaches the seal and faces Dagon's herald, which turns out to be Vilgax, now infused with a Lucubra. Ben comes to George's aid, but it's too late. Vilgax breaks open the seal, revealing a tunnel leading to Dagon's dimension, though Dagon himself is still trapped in the seal. Part 1 of The Ultimate Enemy, begins with Vilgax releasing a powerful energy wave that turns everyone on Earth into esoterica, except for Ben, Gwen, Kevin, George, and Julie, thanks to Ship protecting her. They continue to fight Vilgax as the seal gets weaker and weaker, with Dagon granting Vilgax more power in order to prepare for this coming. Gwen and Kevin go back to Gwen's house hoping to find an answer on how to contain Dagon, when they are attacked by hordes of esoterica.
Look, for all we know, I could be shooting your mom, or Julie, or Grandpa Max.
They retreat inside her home and cast a protective shield, but as they go through her books, Dagon takes control of Gwen, bringing her back to the seal. Gwen uses the full potential of her anodite abilities to break the seal, but luckily Kevin manages to block her mind like last time, knowing she could never hurt him. Dagon had used Gwen because he realized Vilgax was only using Dagon's power for his own personal gain. Further proved when Vilgax's former right-hand man, Siphon, arrived with a spaceship ready for whatever Vilgax is secretly planning. None of it matters though, as Dagon finally breaks the seal, revealing his gigantic monstrous form spanning the entire sky. Part 2 begins with Ben transforming his ultimate way big, bringing Dagon down to his playing field. Ben learns very quickly that Dagon has regenerative capabilities. Therefore, he cannot be defeated conventionally. Dagon turns his attention to George, and he and Ben work together to take Dagon down. But it's still not enough. Eventually, it is just George left standing, and Dagon unleashes a powerful burst of energy that disintegrates George. Rest in peace, the greatest knight who ever lived. Vilgax then reveals his secret plan all along and goads Dagon into attacking his traitorous servant. Dagon fires a powerful blast at a machine operated by Siphon that absorbs all of Dagon and his power. Siphon then fires the machine at Vilgax, making Vilgax the most powerful being in the universe.
Now I am the Dagon.
Gwen teleports the gang to the decommissioned plumber's headquarters hidden in Mount Rushmore, but Vilgax easily finds them, unleashing his power and the esoterica on them. Gwen powers up the base's defenses and Vilgax still punches through, once again leaving Ben the last man standing against Vilgax. Ben then uses Ascalon and absorbs all of Dagon's power out of Vilgax, returning him to his original form. Now possessing both the power of Dagon and the Ultimatrix, Vilgax tempts Ben with using that power to create a universe to his liking, where there is no evil and Ben can finally be the hero he's always wanted to be. Julie arrives thanks to Ship and argues that if Ben does this, he's no better than Vilgax or any of the other foes he's faced. Gwen and Kevin take her side, with both of them using their own experiences, possessing that much power as forewarning. Ben thinks for a second, reflecting on everything they've done up to this point, and decides to use all the power to return the esoterica on Earth back into humans. He then gives up the power and Julie kisses Ben. Azimuth then appears, proud of Ben, and takes the sword back, promising to keep it safe. He then takes Ben's Ultimatrix back and gives him an official Omnitrix, no longer using a prototype like he did before. He makes Ben promise to keep doing the right thing, and maybe one day finally override the Master Control. And that, my friends, is the end of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. And I had a lot of fun reliving the nostalgia of this iconic show. There are still other Ben 10 shows to cover, so be on the lookout for those soon to come. Thanks for watching, and if you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.